November 14th, 1968, Beverly Hills. One of those Hollywood parties where everyone is famous and no one is real. Crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, men in tuxedos, women in diamonds. The sound of fake laughter echoing off marble floors. Dean Martin stands alone on the balcony, away from the noise, away from the performance, a bourbon in his hand, a cigarette between his fingers. He looks out at the Los Angeles lights spread below like scattered jewels. He hears footsteps behind him. Doesn't turn around. You're Dean Martin. The voice is flat, direct, no charm, no warmth, just a statement of fact. Dean takes a drag of his cigarette, exhales slowly. Last time I checked, Steve McQueen steps up beside him, leans against the balcony railing. The hottest actor in Hollywood, the man they call the King of Cool. Bullet just broke box office records. The Thomas Crown Affair made women swoon. Every studio wants him. Every director fears him. But up close, in the dim light of the balcony, Dean sees something else. Something behind those famous blue eyes. Tension, hunger, a coiled spring waiting to snap. McQueen doesn't look at him. He stares out at the city. I've been watching you for years, Martin, trying to figure you out. Dean raises an eyebrow. That sounds creepy. McQueen doesn't laugh. His jaw tightens. Everyone calls me the King of Cool. Magazine covers, movie posters. That's my brand. That's what they sell. He finally turns to face Dean. But you're the real thing. You're actually cool. How do you do it? Dean studies him for a moment. The question isn't casual. It's desperate. This isn't an actor making small talk. This is a man asking for help. How do I do what? This McQueen gestures vaguely at Dean, at his relaxed posture, his easy smile, the way he holds his drink like he has nowhere to be. You walk through life like nothing can touch you, like nothing matters, like you've got some secret the rest of us don't have. He steps closer. His voice drops. I need to know what it is, because I'm drowning, man. I'm at the top of the world, and I'm drowning. And what Dean Martin told him that night would change Steve McQueen's life. Not immediately. Not dramatically, but slowly, like water wearing down stone. A truth that took years to sink in but never left once it did. To understand why Steve McQueen asked that question, you need to understand who Steve McQueen really was. Not the movie star, not the icon, the man beneath the image. Steve McQueen was born in 1930 in a charity hospital in Indianapolis. His father left before he was born. His mother was an alcoholic who couldn't handle raising a child alone. She abandoned him to relatives, then took him back, then abandoned him again. Over and over, a childhood of being passed around like unwanted furniture. By age 9, he was living on the streets. By 12, he was in a reform school for stealing. By 14, he had joined a gang. By 16, he had run away to sea. By 18, he was in the Marines. He learned early that the world was dangerous, that people leave, that love is temporary, that the only person you can count on is yourself, and that if you want to survive, you need to control everything around you. That need for control defined his life. On movie sets, he was a nightmare. He demanded script changes. He fought with directors. He insisted on doing his own stunts, not for the thrill, but because he couldn't trust anyone else to do them right. He counted his lines to make sure he had more than his co-stars. He counted his close-ups. He counted everything in relationships. He was worse, jealous, possessive, paranoid. He cheated on every woman who loved him, then accused them of cheating on him. He pushed people away before they could leave him first. The magazines called him cool. The reality was that Steve McQueen was terrified every day. Of failure, of abandonment, of losing control, of being that unwanted kid again. The cool was a mask. The toughness was armor. And underneath it all was a boy who never stopped waiting for someone to leave. That's the man who approached Dean Martin on that balcony. Not the King of Cool, a frightened child in a movie star's body, begging for the secret to peace. Dean looked at McQueen for a long moment. The party noise drifted from inside. Laughter, music, the clink of glasses. Out here, it was quiet. Just two men and the city lights. Come with me. Dean walked to the far end of the balcony. Away from the windows, away from prying eyes, he leaned against the railing and lit another cigarette. You want to know how I stay cool? McQueen nodded. His body was tense, ready, like he was about to receive classified information. "First, tell me something." Dean's eyes met his. "What are you afraid of?" McQueen flinched. The question hit a nerve. "I'm not afraid of anything." "Bullshit." Dean's voice was calm but firm. "Everybody's afraid of something, and you're more afraid than most. I can see it in the way you stand, the way you talk, the way you're gripping that railing like you're about to fall off." McQueen looked down. His knuckles were white against the metal. He forced himself to relax his grip. "I'm not you're afraid of losing control." Dean cut him off. "You're afraid that if you stop fighting for 1 second, everything will fall apart. You're afraid that the people who love you will leave. You're afraid that the success will disappear. You're afraid that underneath all the fame and the money and the cool, you're still that kid nobody wanted." McQueen's face went pale. His jaw clenched. For a moment, Dean thought he might throw a punch. Instead, his shoulders sagged. The fight went out of him. "How did you know?" Dean shrugged. "Because I was you. 30 years ago, different details, same story." He turned to face the city. His voice softened. "I grew up in Steubenville, Ohio. Poor Italian kid. Nobody thought I'd amount to anything. I spent years trying to prove them wrong, trying to control everything, trying to make sure I'd never be poor again, never be nobody again." He took a long drag of his cigarette. "You know what I learned?" McQueen was silent, listening. "The more you try to control, the less control you have. Life doesn't work that way. You can't hold on to anything by squeezing it tighter. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers." He turned back to McQueen. "You want to know the secret to being cool. Here it is. Stop trying to be cool. Stop trying to control everything. Stop fighting the current." McQueen frowned. "That's it. Just give up, not give up. Let go. There's a difference." Dean set his bourbon on the railing. "You're a swimmer fighting against the tide. Every stroke exhausts you, and the tide doesn't care. It just keeps coming." He mimed, relaxing his body. "But if you stop fighting, if you float, if you let the tide take you where it wants to go, suddenly you're not drowning anymore. Suddenly you're just ... moving, easy, effortless, cool." McQueen stared at him, processing. "But what about the things I can't control? What about the studios, the directors, the people who want to screw me over? They're going to do what they're going to do." Dean picked up his bourbon. "You can't control them. You can only control you. How you react, how you feel, whether you let them take your peace." He took a sip. "Right now, you're giving everyone power over you. Every critic who writes a bad review, every director who challenges you, every woman who looks at another man, you've handed them the keys to your happiness, and then you're surprised when they drive you crazy." Dean stepped closer. His voice was intense now. "Take the keys back. Your happiness, your peace, your cool, that's yours. Nobody can take it unless you give it to them, and you've been giving it away for free." McQueen was quiet for a long time. The party continued inside. Out here, time seemed to stop. "How do I do that? How do I stop caring what people think?" Dean smiled. That easy, famous smile. "You don't stop caring. You just realize that their opinion is their business, not yours. You can't control what they think, so why waste energy on it?" He pointed at McQueen's chest. "There's only one person's opinion that matters, the guy you see in the mirror every morning. Make him proud. Make him happy. Make him respect the man you are. Everything else is noise." McQueen looked down at his hands. They were still now. The tension in his shoulders had eased. "What if the guy in the mirror doesn't like me?" Dean's face grew serious. For a moment, the mask cracked. The entertainer vanished. What remained was Dino Crocetti, a man who knew pain, who knew the long road from hating yourself to making peace with who you are. Then you work on that, not on the movies, not on the fame, not on controlling everyone around you. You work on you, on forgiving the kid who did what he had to do to survive, on accepting the man you've become. He put a hand on McQueen's shoulder. "You're not that unwanted boy anymore, Steve. You made it. You survived. Now you've got to let him go. Stop punishing yourself for a childhood you didn't choose. Stop trying to control a world that's uncontrollable." Dean's grip tightened. "Let go. Float. Trust that you're going to be okay, because you are. You've always been okay. You just forgot." McQueen's eyes glistened. He blinked rapidly. Looked away. Nobody's ever talked to me like this. Nobody else knows what it's like. Dean released his shoulder. But I do. I've been where you are. Fighting everything. Trusting no one. Thinking control was the answer. He smiled softly. It's not the answer. It's the problem. Control is just fear dressed up in a suit. And fear is the opposite of cool. McQueen took a deep breath. Let it out slowly. Something shifted in his posture. Subtle, but real. So what do I do tomorrow? When I walk on set and the director pisses me off and some actress is late and the whole thing feels like it's falling apart, Dean laughed. A real laugh. You do your job, you show up, you give it your best, and then you go home and have a drink and let it go. He raised his bourbon. What happens on that set is not your responsibility. Your performance is, that's it. Everything else is someone else's problem. He clinked his glass against an imaginary glass in McQueen's hand. Do your work. Let go of the rest. Wake up tomorrow and do it again. That's the whole secret. That's cool. McQueen stared at him. Then slowly, a smile crossed his face. The first real smile of the night. You make it sound simple. It is simple. Dean grinned. Simple doesn't mean easy. You'll fail at this 1,000 times. You'll grab for control again. You'll worry about what people think. You'll forget everything I just said. He shrugged. And then you'll remember. And you'll let go again. And eventually it becomes a habit. And one day, you'll wake up and realize you're not fighting anymore. You're just living. McQueen extended his hand. Dean shook it. Thank you, Dean. I mean it. Dean's eyes twinkled. For what? We just had a drink on a balcony. Nothing happened here, McQueen laughed. Turned to leave, stopped. One more question. Shoot. Are you ever scared? Really scared? Dean finished his bourbon. Set the glass on the railing. Looked out at the city one last time, every day. I'm scared that the voice will go, that the audience will leave, that I'll wake up back in Steubenville with nothing. He turned to face McQueen. The difference is, I don't let fear drive the car. I wave at it in the rearview mirror and keep going. McQueen nodded slowly. Something settled in his eyes. Understanding, peace. Keep going. I like that. It's all we can do, kid. Keep going. Let go. Float. McQueen walked back into the party. Dean stayed on the balcony. Alone again, the city lights below, the stars above. What happened to Steve McQueen after that night took time to unfold. He didn't change overnight. He still fought on sets, still struggled in relationships, still grabbed for control when the fear took over. But something was different. A seed had been planted. And slowly, over years, it grew. By the mid-1970s, people noticed. McQueen was calmer, less explosive. He took fewer roles, but chose them more carefully. He spent more time with his kids. He found a peace that had eluded him his whole life. In 1980, Steve McQueen was diagnosed with terminal cancer. He had months to live. And in those final months, something remarkable happened. He stopped fighting, not just the disease, everything. He forgave old enemies. He reconnected with people he had pushed away. He made peace with his past. In his final interview, he was asked if he had any regrets. His answer surprised everyone. I spent most of my life trying to control things I couldn't control. Wasted a lot of energy, hurt a lot of people. He paused, smiled. A man told me once to let go. To float took me years to understand what he meant. Wish I'd figured it out sooner. He never named the man, but those who knew him knew. Dean Martin heard about McQueen's death on November 7, 1980. He was alone in his living room. The television was on, but the sound was off. He poured a bourbon, raised it to the empty room. Float easy, kid. You finally got it. He sat there for a long time, remembering that night on the balcony, remembering the desperate look in McQueen's eyes, remembering how much it reminded him of himself 30 years earlier. Some lessons take a lifetime to learn, but they're worth every year. There is a lesson in this story. Cool isn't an act. It isn't a pose. It isn't something you can fake or manufacture or buy. Cool is the absence of fear, the absence of the desperate need to control, the willingness to let life happen and trust that you'll be okay. Steve McQueen spent years pretending to be cool. Dean Martin spent years actually being cool. The difference? Dean had made peace with himself. McQueen was still at war. That night on the balcony, Dean offered McQueen a ceasefire, a way out of the endless battle. It took years for McQueen to fully accept it, but when he did, he found something he had been searching for his whole life. Peace. Real peace. The kind that doesn't depend on control or success, or other people's opinions. The kind that comes from finally letting go. This is Dean Martin, The Untold Legacy. Let me know in the comments, what are you holding on to that you need to let go? Sometimes one conversation changes everything. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear that control is just fear in disguise. And make sure you're subscribed, because in our next video, we reveal the night Dean Martin saved Judy Garland with a single phone call. Until then, keep swinging, Polly.